Okay, so our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world get this very opportunity to get Temple Ashaju, our business correspondent, not live from the stock exchange, trading floor, but live here in the studios at the global headquarters. This happens very rare. Okay, in other days like public holidays. Temple is here. Thank you. It's good to have you here.
Good to be
Out of the floor.
Good to be right by your side here.
Thank you, Temple. It's good to have you here. The markets are closed. That's not news anymore. But yesterday morning, we're just trying to chat through if the market will be able to get its 30,000 psychological index back. That's the stock market.
Yeah.
And we just finished off some few notches above that. And we still say thank you to the banks, the earnings that are coming through for the first quarter.
Just as a lot of people are now putting their money on the consumer goods segment of the market, trying to see how things will pan out next week when these food giants and the beverages companies will start bringing in their numbers. Well, yesterday we actually hit the 30,086.31 points. That represents some 116.05 absolute points. And in terms of what we're going back by way of the equity capitalization, it was 43.37 billion naira. And that was what we recorded yesterday. In terms of week-to-date performance, because of course the week has ended already, we expanded some 1.78%. We moderated in terms of month-to-date performance to 3.07%. And of course, yet-to-date, we moderated to 4.27%. That was quite significant in terms of what we did yesterday. Activity level yesterday was a little bit below the 30-day average. Volume was up some 5%, but 32% below 30-day average. Value of the transaction was 1.73 billion naira compared to what we had in the preceding session, which was over 3 billion naira. That represents some kind of 47% decline in terms of performance. And these we all saw panning out in 3,399 deals generally. I wonder what happened to just one more deal that would have just given us 3,400 deals. But basically, we saw contributions, huge contributions from Access Bank, which has been in the big cat, was up some 3.01% yesterday. That was the top traded security yesterday in the market. We saw 58 million units of its shares valued at 403 million naira coming into the market. And of course, you got Royal Exchange and the bid cat as well, up 10%, the most yesterday out of the 26 gainers that we have in the markets, up yesterday by some 10%. However, for the top loser, we saw CNI Leasing, which has been quiet for 15 trading sessions now. Yesterday was the top loser, down some 9.89%, and of course it closed at 7 naira 20 kobo. If we go to the sectoral fronts as we have right now on the screen, you've got the banking segment of the market doing well yesterday. Fidelity Bank, Access Bank, EcoBank Transnational Incorporated, which officially communicated its Euro bonds to the stock exchange yesterday, all of that, as well as UBA, Wema Bank. Yesterday we saw some investors going for Wema Bank, gaining 1.47% after being on bid cat on Wednesday. Then that contributed to what we saw in the banking sector yesterday. FBN Holdings, which was up 1.32%, also joined to push up the indices of the banking segment of the market, up some 77 basis points. For the consumer goods segment of the market, earlier in the day, we saw Dangote Flour losing. Then it made some recovery. Closed yesterday at 2.88%. We saw Dangote Sugar raking in some 1.79% in form of price appreciation. Unilever was up in spite of not so impressive earnings of this particular company that came in yesterday. And we saw UACN as well as Nigerian breweries making some good comeback yesterday in the market. Industrial goods segment of the market, we saw First Aluminium contributing massively to this. CCNN, of course, was up 4.29%. Qtix, Chemical and Allied Products was up 0.74%. And of course, the ultimate Dangote, almighty Dangote Cement was also up yesterday, 0.72%. That's how we recorded some 26 basis points growth in the industrial goods segment of the market. For the insurance side of things, Royal Exchange pushed up the indices. Mansard also pushed up the indices by some 4.26%. The indices settled at 156 basis points yesterday. ICO also did some goods there. The oil and gas segment of the market, since we got an assurance that there will be no more the removal of fuel subsidy, things have actually changed in that segment of the market. If you look at the indices yesterday, it was down 48 basis points, O&O. We saw investors selling off there, of course, by way of some kind of profit taking. It was down 204 basis points yesterday. 11 PLC, which used to be known as Mobile, was also down 1.63%. So in the energy segment of the market, these are just the two key numbers that actually changed in terms of the movement we saw in energy stocks yesterday. None of the companies that you have on that segment of the market was able to record up to 1 million units of its shares traded yesterday. The highest, I think, was around just Eternal PLC, which had 477 units of its shares traded yesterday. Over to the NASD market, where things are also looking good. You've got the USI up yesterday some 0.93%. We got it closing at 741.05 points. We got market capitalization at 532.39 billion naira. In terms of the volume of transaction, it was just 1.37 million units, and of course that's a rise of an increase of 576% over what we had in the preceding session. The value of transactions was put at 11.1 million naira, and we saw just 11 deals on that side of the market. But more significantly, we saw 1,060,000 units of shares traded across the counter of IGI PLC, which is an insurance firm tradable on that side of the market. And of course, CSCS and WAMCO, Freeland are some of the companies that also contributed to the level of gains that we saw on that side of the market yesterday. And then for the fixed income side of the market, we've got the bonds market and, of course, the treasury bills market all doing well yesterday. We saw positive outing for these two major sides of the market. For the on the average, we saw a decline of 2 basis points on this in the fixed income side of the market yesterday. But trading was positive for the bond side of things. Although with a bearish tilt, we saw the resurgence of demand from domestic players in the market. We got the short end of the curve experiencing a bit of traction yesterday. July 2021 security, for example, contracted by some 31 basis points. However, the mid and the long end of the curve, we saw investors really selling down. That's ahead of the bond auction that is expected to take place next week, 24th of April. That's going to be Wednesday. 100 billion naira worth of primary market auction will be taking place by the Debt Management Office across some of the new issues that have come in there. You have the April 2023. That's going to be reopening. Then you have the April 2029, which is a new issue, and of course April 2049, which is also a new issue. For April 2029, it's going to be 40 billion naira, and of course April 2049 will be another 20 billion naira by way of an issue. So you're going to be seeing investors at the secondary side of the market preparing, bracing up for this auction that will be taking place next week. For the treasury bill side of the market, there was also healthy demand on treasury bills. We saw yields declining further by some 15 basis points on the average. The 1 month bill was really flat yesterday. The 3-month bills saw a contraction of 22 basis points, according to analysis from houses. And of course, the 6-month bill saw a bit of a contraction of 8 basis points, specifically 12th September 2019 security, which has an interest of 13.1%, saw the yield yesterday contracting by some 0.07 basis points. And of course, that meant some 13.83%. Basically. So that's what the markets looked like yesterday. Investors are really positive, very bullish on what we will see next
summary,
week.
In a very lot of summary. A lot of numbers in the details. I'm sure to wrap this up a bit, for the oil and gas stocks, for the petroleum marketers, to use the local, or the retailers, I think they will be able to breathe a sigh of relief, as it were, that at least the coast has been cleared, that the government is not removing petrol subsidy, at least not for now, not for the foreseeable future. And I think the government will be now sitting down on the drawing board. The big story for everyone next week could be the new minimum wage.
Exactly.
And then I think for the oil and gas stocks, the company investors will say, okay, fine, let's go back there. Minimum wage is now still now the petrol subsidy removal is taking the back footing. So Next week is going to be more of the minimum wage. Maybe that's why investors folks are looking at the consumer goods sector, because that looks like that's where some of the money will go.
So we can actually celebrate after Easter.
Well, Temple, I'm not too sure if we qualified, if we are not above the 30,000 minimum wage already. It's not for everyone. That's the minimum wage is not for everyone, and that's the story out there. If you're earning 30,000 naira minimum wage, then you're not to benefit from the new wage. This is not a general salary increase. Just to clear that things up a little bit.
You know, that's question out there right now. That will the private sector actually benefit from this? Because we know that there's a National Minimum Wage Act of 1999 or thereabouts, and folks have been asking questions around how that really applies to the private sector. I understand that that particular act makes provisions for exemption for establishments that have less than 50 workers.
Yes.
And then again for organizations that have something around contracts and all of that. But the question is just out there, and
I think the conversation is just, when it comes to wages, it's always a big conversation.
It's always
It's about who is paying and who is receiving. But when the giver and the taker, and it's always an unending conversation.
However, Nigeria has a history of the private sector really breaching that act.
Well, let's see how things goes. Let's continue this next week. Thank you, Temple. Let's have this handshake. We hardly get this.
A live one.
A live one. In case you didn't get that on shot, you can watch this show all over again.
Sure.
And it's on our youtube.com/ChannelsWeb. We'll see you again Monday. It's always business here on Channels Television, isn't it? But news comes first at the top of the hour. Bye for now.